What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined once again by my co host, Alex Wilson. Welcome back. Today, we are going to be talking about the New York Giants quarterback room once again, but we're not going to be highlighting how great of an impact Russell Wilson can have on the team. We're not going to be highlighting the potential of Jackson Dart. Those two, they're locked onto the roster. They are here to stay, and they will probably both at some point start games for the Giants this season. But the Giants are currently holding 4 quarterbacks on their roster. Before they even signed Russell Wilson, they signed Jameis Winston, and Jameis Winston signed to a 2-year contract to be the Giants' backup quarterback for 2025 and 2026. But there has been some chatter over the last month or two, or maybe even 3, about could he be a sign and trade candidate for the New York Giants now that they have drafted Jackson Dart and he's going to be here? And you know what? He was already earning reps as the QB2 for this roster. But the QB4 on this roster right now is the fan favorite, Mr. Tommy Cutlets, Tommy DeVito. And while the expectation is he'll get cut, released, and put probably onto the practice squad, with Jameis Winston getting some chatter as a trade candidate, could the Giants instead move on from Jameis and hold on to Tommy DeVito as their QB3? That's kind of what we're going to discuss. We're going to talk about whether or not we think that is a sound strategy for the Giants, or if we really like Jameis Winston and we think he should be here for the next 2 years, that's going to be the take that we give. But we're pretty much just going to go ahead, go back and forth and break it down and kind of try and decide what direction the Giants should go in at QB3, which is kind of an underrated point. QB3, you don't really think about that a whole lot, but backup quarterbacks, as we know as Giants fans, watching the cycle of quarterbacks that we've had the last 2 years, backup quarterbacks are pretty crucial and are worth talking about. So we're going to discuss Jameis Winston and Tommy DeVito and the potential value extraction that the Giants could get by trading Jameis Winston if they so choose, versus holding on to Tommy DeVito and holding on to Jameis instead. So, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? I'm excited to dive into this topic with you. Hopefully we don't argue too much. Maybe we'll go down the beaten path and argue chicken cutlets and chicken schnitzels. Hopefully not today. That's happened in the past. But you know what? Happy to have you back on the show with me. How are you doing today, my friend?
Doing fantastic, and I must say, where did you get this brilliant, genius T-shirt? T-Dex. I mean, shout out to the man Danny behind the scenes, whipping up these awesome T-shirts, awesome stuff. Where'd you get this? Tell the people.
Over at empiresportsmedia.com. You go click the store tab up in the top corner, and then you'll be pulled up to the Empire Sports Media store. We've got FSG gear. We've got Fireside Yankees gear. A lot of cool stuff on there. Like you said, shout out to Danny for the cool designs. But I love the shirt, and it's also really soft and comfortable. It's a comfort color shirt, but yeah, love it, and can't wait to see the T-Dex, Dexter Lawrence, hopefully put up double-digit sacks this season.
Maybe not just him. Maybe Abdul Carter, a little Brian Burns, some Kayvon Thibodeau. Hopefully the whole line feasts this year. But yeah, I mean, this is an interesting discussion. Odd man out, right? Jameis Winston and obviously Tommy DeVito. And, you have this whole new quarterback room that ultimately night and day compared to what we had last year. And Russell Wilson has experience, has a Super Bowl. He's a future probable Hall of Famer. Jameis Winston, he's been good, he's been bad, he's been horrible, he's been everything in between. But one thing you're going to get from Jameis Winston is a damn good attitude, and you're going to get some big time plays. You're going to get some gunslinging mentality, and that's kind of what Brian Daboll wants in a backup quarterback. And then you have Jackson Dart, who has the luxury of sitting behind these two guys, and he gets to soak up all this information, the positivity, the intelligence, the way that they're able to process an offense, the way they're able to put that on the football field, just day-to-day how to go about your work ethic, and what these type of pros are doing to prepare themselves. It's all amazing. Like, this is, if you're Jackson Dart, you couldn't find yourself in a better place to learn, have a redshirt season, and maybe not even, maybe he gets thrown into the mix at some point if the season goes off the rails, or maybe they're just feeling like he's ready to take over and they have a better chance of winning with him at quarterback. You never know. But nonetheless, it kind of begs the question. You have 3 quarterbacks here. Jackson Dart's the future. Russell Wilson's here for 1 season, and Jameis Winston's here for 2 years. Then you have Tommy DeVito all the way at the back of the line, trying to figure out where he kind of fits into the mold here. Well, Russell Wilson's, he's probably the most tradable piece because he's a competent starting level quarterback on a very favorable deal. And if the Giants, for whatever reason, see the need to trade him, I do believe that he'll probably be the guy that gets moved. But then you ask yourself, Jameis Winston, he's on a 2-year, $8 million deal that could reach $16 million with playing time incentives. But let's be honest, he's not reaching those incentives most likely. So, having a good quality veteran backup is valuable in today's NFL. We saw that last year. Would have much rather had Tyrod Taylor than Drew Lock in terms of just overall competency. And I think that the Giants like Jameis. They like him as a backup. He's a good, positive guy to have behind Jackson Dart. We've already seen the clips and the pictures, and they seem to have a really good relationship already. Anthony, what do you think about just the Giants were going to end up trading someone? Who do you think is the most tradable? And I actually don't necessarily think it's Jameis Winston. I think that 2-year deal is pretty favorable, and they should probably ride that out. I mean, what are you really going to get back for him anyway?
Well, I think you could get quite a bit back for Jameis Winston because of how quarterback needy some of these teams could end up being. I don't think that Russell Wilson is entirely tradable because if a team were to trade for Russell Wilson, the expectation is that he would immediately step in and be the starter, not even be the fringe starter. He signed with the Giants to start, and I don't know what team is going to trade for that kind of baggage, so to speak. And you are right, like he's a competent quarterback on a very favorable deal. But at the same time, he does come with a certain status that NFL teams might not want to acquire mid-season, so to speak, right? And so I don't think that Russell Wilson is in any way a trade candidate for the Giants. They want him to be the starter of the season. Yes, there are rumors that they want to get Jackson Dart on the field sooner rather than later, and Jackson Dart's been impressive, and if that continues, yeah, he'll make his way onto the field. But you know what? That's kind of akin to having a guy like a Kurt Warner that you put on the bench for Eli Manning back in the past. The Giants weren't scrambling to trade Kurt Warner ahead of the deadline so that they could get Eli on the field. They wanted Kurt Warner to go out there, play as many games, and compete in as many games as possible to keep the team competitive through the rest of the season and eventually get Eli on the field for some essentially practice games before his second season. And that's what I think Russell Wilson is for the Giants. Plus, let's say in a nightmare scenario, knock on wood for this one, Alex, but if the Giants were to bench Russell Wilson in favor of Jackson Dart, and either Jackson Dart looks really bad and struggles, or Jackson Dart gets injured, you don't want to turn it over to the QB3 now, Jameis Winston, and take that significant drop off. You want to have the starting quarterback that you had initially, Russell Wilson, re-enter the lineup. I think that would be the way that the Giants would want to strategize it. So I don't view Russell Wilson as being totally tradable. I could see your perspective on that. But I do think with Jameis Winston, because he is a fringe starter, he's a tradable piece. And I want to actually answer your question of how much I think the Giants could get for him. Probably a day 3 pick, but I think that would be a higher day 3 pick than most might realize. There is precedence for quarterbacks, backup quarterbacks really, to get traded and recoup some sort of an early day 3, even sometimes a late day 2 pick. And I look at a team, Alex, like the New Orleans Saints. Now, the New Orleans Saints have familiarity with Jameis Winston. He was there for a couple of seasons. He was the starter to open, I believe, in 2021. It was having probably the best stretch of football in his career before he tore his ACL that season and had his season cut short. But Jameis has a familiarity with the Saints. The Saints do not really have a starting quarterback. They're hoping that the rookie Tyler Shuck can be their week 1 starter, which I think is kind of a pipe dream that he'll be fully ready for week 1. But when you look at that quarterback room and you look at the fact that Cameron Jordan, New Orleans Saints kind of legend and all-pro defensive end, was calling for the team to trade for Jameis Winston, I actually do see that as a reasonable landing spot for him. And I think that's a team that, let's say they get through the summer, Alex, all of the quarterbacks look terrible. Tyler Shuck is in no way going to be ready for week 1, and they know that. They don't have a quarterback. Spencer Rattler's not going to be ready to start in week 1. They're going to be a dumpster fire if they go with this quarterback room. I could see them throwing a day 2 pick at the New York Giants saying, hey, we'll give you our 3rd round pick. Give us Jameis Winston so that we have a starting quarterback to get through the season, right? And so that might be an overpay on the part of the New Orleans Saints, but it might be necessary. And I do think that the Giants are sitting here with a potential surplus at quarterback that they could take advantage and kind of fleece a quarterback needy team, a team in dire need of quarterback help. They could fleece them and potentially get a 2nd round or 3rd round pick for a quarterback that really has like a 5th round value in Jameis Winston. So I actually do see a path for them to get a pretty good return on him. And let's also go into the season, right? I'm saying ahead of week 1 if they wanted to trade Jameis Winston and go ahead and try and recoup that pick. But how about this? Imagine a team is really surging. They've got, 10 wins, or let's say it's by the trade deadline, week 9. Let's say that they've got 7 wins, 2 losses, but their starting quarterback goes down with an injury. Whichever team you want that to be, a juggernaut that's going to be in the playoffs. But now they're going to be without their quarterback for the next rest of the season. Maybe he's going to be ready to return just in time for the playoffs. but they need a quarterback to get them through that stretch, make sure that they keep winning games and don't fall behind in the playoff race. That team might also be willing to trade a late third round pick just to get by for the rest of the regular season while their quarterback gets healthy and gets back into the lineup for the playoffs. So I do think there's a couple paths here where Jameis Winston actually has some pretty significant value in a trade to return to the New York Giants, and in terms of getting that third round pick back, right? The Giants traded their 2026 third round pick to move up and go ahead and select Jackson Dart. I could see them potentially getting it back by trading away Jameis Winston. What are your thoughts on that? Those two kind of scenarios that I laid out, they're very hypothetical and they're major what ifs, but they're somewhat realistic. Could you see a path where the Giants actually get a somewhat premium draft pick in return for Jameis Winston?
I mean, premium draft pick, probably not. But if, like you said, the New Orleans Saints, they're leaning on Tyler Shuck. I mean, I sent you this list yesterday. Someone has Tyler Shuck listed above Russell Wilson in their quarterback rankings. Like, that person must be just wholly on that organic meth. That's absolutely crazy. But I'll tell you this right now. Jameis Winston's value to the Giants, maybe, I mean, I guess the question is, what do you say is a valuable draft pick? What do you think is premium draft
third
capital?
round pick?
A third round pick.
Anything on day two is premium.
Yeah, I'm 100% trading Jameis Winston for a third round pick. That's not even like,
yeah. It's not the question of whether or not you would, but do you think that, I laid out the two scenarios. If the Saints get really quarterback needy ahead of week one, or if a playoff caliber team needs a quarterback to get through the rest of the season, I could see a team trading a third round pick for Jameis to get through the season.
It depends what team. I think that the Saints, with their financial situation, really can't afford to be burning draft capital like that. I mean, Tyler Shuck, like, they're going into that season, in my opinion, knowing they're going to suck. Like, knowing that they're probably winning 3 to 4 games, realistically. That's just my personal opinion with the Saints. Another team, like, I mean, if I'm just looking, there's not that many teams here that really, unless it's a good quality team that feels that Jameis Winston can, like, win them a playoff game, like, you never know, goes on a hot stretch, like, as they're going into the playoffs and they lost their quarterback. It might be one of those situations we have to wait for, you know what I mean? As we see.
And that's why I laid the two scenarios out rather clearly, but let me kind of refine it. Let's say the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's throw them out there as the example, just to kind of make it really clear. Let's say that they have 7 wins through 8 weeks, right? They're 7-1. And Patrick Mahomes goes down with a twisted knee or a twisted ankle, whatever it is. But he's going to be back just in time for the playoffs. He should return by week 17. To get through the rest of the season, Jameis Winston holds tremendous value. Who's their backup quarterback right now? I don't even know. But let's just imagine that it's somebody that they're not comfortable with, and they want to get Jameis Winston in there to start 7 games for them, or really closer to 10 games in that scenario. I could see them, because of how late they'd be picking anyway, trading a third round pick for Jameis. That's just kind of the scenario that I'm laying out. I could see a quarterback needy team mid-season trying to trade a premium pick. Maybe everybody disagrees with me in the comment section. I don't know, but I could see a scenario where Jameis becomes really valuable to a team in the playoff hunt.
I could even see Russell Wilson equally being in that same conversation. You know what I mean? Especially because if you're the Chiefs, like, who gives you the better chance of winning, Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston? Probably Russ, and he's on the 1-year deal. I mean, I guess, like, third round pick probably is a little expensive. I think, like, fourth round pick probably feels like, in my gut, like, that makes, like, more sense in terms of just what you get in return for a guy like that. But anything was possible. Like, that's totally possible in that regard. Like, if they needed someone to cover 7 games or so until they get their guy back.
So then what's the lowest offer that you would accept for Jameis Winston?
The lowest offer that I would accept is probably, the lowest offer I would accept is, I would say, a 4th round pick. I'd say that's probably the lowest. It maybe like we give them a 6th, they give us a 4th, and we give them Winston as well. You know what I mean? Like, that's probably what I would do. I mean, just seeing how cheap backup quarterbacks are these days, I don't really think the Giants will have much of a problem, like, signing somebody else, next offseason to a backup role. It could be like a Joe Flacco for all we know. The problem is, like, you kind of want a quarterback that can operate the offense you want to run. And Jameis Winston kind of operates similarly to Jackson Dart in some ways. So that's kind of where I'd say, like, he is valuable to the Giants.
He's very valuable to the Giants. And I don't think that backup quarterbacks are that cheap. I think that a good backup quarterback is usually expensive. I just think this Jameis Winston contract is one of the best in the NFL. I mean, he's arguably the best backup quarterback, and they have him at $4 million per season. That's less than they were paying Drew freaking Lock last year. I mean, it's a great deal. And Jameis Winston's a much better player than Drew Lock. But okay, so you mentioned a quarterback who fits the system, knows the system. Let's circle it back. Let's not talk about midseason trade. Let's go back to end of preseason trade here, because in terms of quarterbacks who know the system and can play in it, the Giants have one of those guys right now. The rest of them are learning the system. One quarterback's been in the system for 3 years. It's Tommy DeVito. And so that's where I wanted to add that fourth quarterback into the conversation here, because while Jameis Winston is definitely the better quarterback between the two, he's also technically the more expensive. I just said how great of a bargain his deal is. Sure, of course it is. But technically, he is the more expensive of the two between him and Tommy DeVito. He is a great locker room leader, and he's definitely a player that players get behind. But fans have gotten behind Tommy DeVito before. He has started and won games for the Giants, has won a primetime game for the New York Giants. I think he has as many primetime wins as Daniel Jones in his Giants career, and far fewer opportunities. But Tommy DeVito, knowing the offense, being here for a while, if the Giants feel as though at the end of the preseason they can get some value by trading away Jameis Winston, are you comfortable with Tommy DeVito as that QB3?
Listen, I am okay with that. And the reason I say that is because if we're down to our QB3, we're cooked anyway. You know what I mean? Like, the season's over. If we're down to QB3, our season's over. So, at that point, you might as well just recoup some draft capital and reset. That's kind of how I feel about it at this point.
I kind of do agree with you. And that's where I think, initially we start this conversation. We're like, Jameis Winston is a really good backup quarterback. We kind of want him here this year and next year. He could be Jackson Dart's backup next season. That would be great. But at the same time, he is expendable for the 2025 season. And if you're only looking at this 2025 season, if you are down to the QB3, the whole season's cooked anyway. Joe Shane's probably getting fired anyway. Brian Dable's probably getting fired anyway. You might as well try and get that extra draft capital and try and set yourself up for future in case you are back around in 2026. And by doing so, or by trading Jameis Winston, you would be doing so. You would gain some additional draft capital for the future while also maintaining a QB3 who is familiar with the team, has been here for 3 seasons and knows the offense, and is, for lack of a better term, a fan favorite. I know that some people find that contentious. Some people really don't like Tommy DeVito and his finger pinching antics, but there is a very strong group of fans that he has in that New York, New Jersey area. Italian Americans like myself do love Tommy DeVito and really get behind him as a kind of, fan favorite player. So the backup quarterback situation, like I said, I think is pretty interesting. And with Jameis Winston, while I do think he would be great as a backup quarterback next season, there is value to be had this offseason. And so I think that's the big question, Alex. Is Jameis Winston as QB2 in 2026 more valuable than a potential 3rd to 5th round pick in 2026? Which one of those two things do you think holds more value to the New York Giants?
That's a good question. Probably a 3rd round. I mean, definitely a 3rd round pick is more valuable in my opinion, just because, listen, if you're at QB2, your QB2 is playing meaningful football, your season's probably over. You know what I mean? Like, your season's probably done. I think that's a pretty fair take. Like, if you lose Mahomes, if you lose Herbert, if you lose Allen, your season's over, right? The same thing goes for any team that has a starter that goes down. So, with that being said, I kind of think that 3rd round pick, you get 4 years of cost control talent. And we just got Andrew Phillips in the 3rd round. You know what I mean? We got Darius Alexander just right now in the 3rd round. Like, if you get a 3rd round for Jameis Winston, you are pulling that trigger like with speed, with pace, in my opinion.
Sure. So let's say that the 3rd round pick is rich, right? The Giants don't get the 3rd. Let's call it a 5th round pick, because I think that's pretty realistic. Yeah, let's drop it all the way down to a 5th round pick. Is the 5th round pick that you would get in exchange for Jameis Winston by trading him this summer? So now you're sacrificing your best backup quarterback for 2025 and 2026. You trade him this summer, let's say, for a 5th round pick. Is that 5th round pick in 2026 more valuable or less valuable than having Jameis as your backup quarterback for the next 2 seasons?
I don't think so. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I was going to throw out there, just reminder, Giants just drafted Marcus Bowe this year in the 5th round.
Yeah.
Tyrone Tracy Jr. the year before, and a couple seasons ago, they got Micah McFadden in the 5th round. Right. So just want to throw that out there to chew on as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a valid point. Like, the Giants have had some hits or relative hits. I'd say pretty much hits in the 3rd round. We'll see about Bowe. Obviously, he hasn't played a snap yet, but Tracy is a hit in my opinion, and McFadden is a hit for 5th rounders. So, and then they also drafted Dane Belton a couple years back, who's a serviceable backup. And I think like for a 5th round pick, that's not bad value. And, so am I willing to trade a 5th round pick? I don't think so, just because I think that Jameis Winston does give you a little bit of value off the field too. Like he's a good mentor. He's a positive guy in the locker room. If things spiral off the hinges, like he can galvanize the group a bit. So I do think that there is some leadership tendencies he brings to the table that are valuable. 4th round pick, I'm probably saying yes. 3rd round pick, I'm freaking pace saying absolutely. But 5th round pick, I think, is the line where I draw in the sand. It's just because I think there is value to him. The 5th round pick is such a low probability, even though we've had some success lately. The probability is just low enough for me to say I think I'm good there.
I think I don't know. It's kind of tough to tell. I don't know if I would take the 5th round pick or if I would hold on to Jameis, because there is a lot of value in Jameis. Like I said, I think he's arguably the best backup quarterback in the NFL. He can win you games. I mean, last season with the Browns, he had a 500-yard passing game, right? He had multiple games with 3 touchdown passes. He can play some good balls still. Obviously, he's inconsistent. He's going to lose you some games, but he's also going to will you to some wins. And I do think when you're looking at it from that perspective, let's say in 2026, Jackson Dart's the starter, but it's week 10. All of a sudden, he's out for 3 weeks. You want a good quarterback to step in and hopefully pick you up at least one of those wins in those 3 games that Jackson Dart's going to miss, right? And Jameis Winston can do that for you. Can Tommy DeVito? I mean, we've seen him do it in the past, but realistically, you'd rather have Jameis Winston going to bat for you in those 3 games while Jackson Dart's out than you would a player of Tommy DeVito's caliber. So I do think there is an argument to holding on to Jameis. Also, going into year 2 of Jackson Dart's career when he's expected to take over as the full-time starter, I think having a veteran like Jameis in the room, a leader like Jameis in the room, is pretty crucial. So it's really tough to tell the value differential here between having Jameis as your backup and also potentially getting a 5th round pick that could be an impactful piece for you long-term, like a Tyrone Tracy or a Micah McFadden, or the expectation of Marcus Bowe being at least a good depth piece on the Giants offensive line for years to come. So it's a pretty interesting kind of conversation and debate here as to which kind of thing holds more value, the backup quarterback or the 5th round pick. I do think there's definitely a debate to be had there. And I'm really curious to see what people think down below in the comment section. I'm sure there's going to be some interesting and heartfelt takes in the comment section as well. But, last note that we get to before we kind of wrap up this conversation, let's say that the Giants are down to Tommy DeVito, right? Like it's all coming down to Tommy DeVito. The season's cooked anyway, right? Or do you think that Tommy DeVito, maybe entering year 3 of his career, could he have ascended into a decent backup quarterback role? Do you think there's any potential for him to actually become maybe, like, let's say that they do trade away Jameis Winston. Obviously, DeVito's only under contract for this year. Do you think now going into year 3 with what we know of Tommy DeVito, what we saw last year, what we saw the season prior, do you think that there is potential for him to maybe continue to stay with the Giants? Let's say akin to Ryan Nassib many years ago. If you remember, he was the backup quarterback for Eli Manning. Never played because Eli never got hurt, but he was the backup for many years as just like developmental guy back there. Do you think that Tommy DeVito could maybe earn his way into that role long-term with the team?
Well, if Jackson Dart never misses a game in 15 years, then probably, because this guy Carl Nassib had the best job on earth. This guy got paid to never play a snap. Like, unless the Giants were winning by 40 or it was a preseason game, this dude sat there and just held jock straps for 15 years. It's an incredible job. So,
but he also he did know the playbook. He was good behind the scenes, and so was
good
Tommy
guy.
DeVito.
Fan favorite. Just not even. I'd say Tommy DeVito is much more of a fan favorite than Carl Nassib was. But listen, if his role is akin to what we've seen from Nassib and Eli Manning's days, absolutely, Tommy DeVito can hold a clipboard for 15 years. But if it comes to actually playing football and actually doing what it takes to keep a team competitive, I think Tommy DeVito had that one stretch that was okay, there's something there. And then, it obviously last year didn't go as anyone planned. And he just holds onto the ball for too long. And you can't do that in the NFL. And if the offensive line isn't good enough to give you just an astronomical amount of time, quarterbacks that hold the ball for too long are going to really struggle on this team. So I don't really think he's a long-term piece here. There's a billion backups I'd rather prefer over him. But if he's QB3 or a practice squatter, I think maybe not a billion, but there's at least 5 to 10 reasonable backups you could easily pick up over him, most likely. So, as like a fan favorite, as a guy that kind of brings some fun heritage to the team and, has all the fun memes and stuff, like he's cool. He's cool. Like I like having guys like that on the roster. But I'll be honest, if he ends up in the practice squad, I'd be willing to bet nobody signs him off our practice squad like that. I don't think
I disagree. I think somebody would sign him.
You think so?
I think that if the Giants release him, he's going to get a backup quarterback job somewhere.
He's probably going to get,
he's probably going to get released. He's on his way to getting released. The only way he doesn't is if they trade Jameis Winston, and that's why we're having this conversation.
Right.
We're pretty much having the talk of how does Tommy DeVito make this
How
roster?
does he survive?
How does he survive and doesn't get released? That's pretty much what this conversation is, but also, obviously, how much value could the Giants get by moving on from Jameis Winston prematurely? So that's why I thought it was an interesting topic to kind of dive into. But, yeah, that's what we're really talking about. Can Tommy DeVito survive and make this roster? But I do think that if they release him, there's going to be a team out there that looks at him and says, hey, he did flash. He's definitely a fan favorite. People love him. We could totally pick him up, bring him in here, and, maybe he can win a game or two down the stretch if our quarterback gets hurt the same way he did in 2023 when the New York Giants needed him to. So I don't know. I think that he's flashed enough to make to get a job as a backup quarterback this season.
Yeah. Absolutely. I definitely think it's gonna be interesting training camp. And obviously, guys, if you saw yesterday, Giants released their training camp tickets. I waited in line for 45 minutes to get them, and then I get there and they're all sold out. So if any of you guys have extra tickets for me and Anthony in July or very early August, not the 2nd, but the 1st or the 4th, please let us know. We'd love to meet you guys. Or if you can't go, obviously take those tickets and put them to good use, and we'll post content for you. So make sure you get to see it firsthand through us. So, appreciate that. Just wanted to put the word out there so people knew that we are on the hunt for some tickets this summer.
For sure. We would love to go to training camp. The ticket line yesterday, what a disaster that was. I know pretty much all Giants fans collectively were crashing out. Like, how did they mess that one up, right? How did they get the training camp website, ticket launch, whatever? How did they get that one so wrong? I have no idea. But nevertheless, we're without tickets. And if you have extras and you're trying to give some away, let us know. Slide into our DMs at Fireside Giants on Instagram, at Anthony_Rivardo on X, at Alex Wilson ESM on X. Just hit us up and let us know if you've got any extras. If not, no sweat. We'll hopefully try and make our way up to the New York, New Jersey area and MetLife Stadium area soon enough. And obviously, we've got the Bizarre Music Festival coming up first weekend of September. That'll be week 1 of the NFL season. You guys can watch New York Giants versus Washington Commanders with me at a restaurant in New Jersey. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'll be joined by Chris the Entertainer, who you all know and love anyway. So definitely stay tuned for more posts on that coming soon. Official channel announcement video coming soon on that. But yeah, definitely consider getting a ticket over to the Bizarre Music Festival. It's going to be a fun time, and you'll get to meet me and watch Fireside Giants live at a booth at Bizarre Music Festival on September 6th or 5th or whatever the opening weekend is for the NFL. And use code Big Blue for a discount at checkout. But anyways, I think that's pretty much going to wrap this one up. Alex, thank you for rejoining me. I was very happy to have you back. But make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. Comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. Listen on Apple or Spotify. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, catch you on the next one. Have a good one. And let's go New York Giants.